Hey there everyone, welcome back to Utility Sports. Really excited for our off-season previews to continue here on the channel, and today we're focusing on the Sacramento Kings, who had a pretty good season this past year. I know some Kings fans are disappointed about the end of the season, obviously losing in the play-in tournament and not really making significant upgrades to the roster this past offseason or trade deadline has a lot of Kings fans up in arms, but I actually feel very confident about the direction of this franchise. I feel like they're in a unique situation with a little bit more leverage than they seemingly had a year ago. So I think the Kings are in a great spot. I want to talk about them in today's video and focus on what they can accomplish this offseason. For the video preview, we're going to start with the season recap, what just went down this past year. We're then going to look at the draft lottery odds for 2024 and which NBA draft prospects they could consider that would meaningfully upgrade this team long term. We'll look at their trade flexibility. It got a little bit trickier, but they actually do have another avenue as well to open up some possibilities, which we'll discuss in this video as well. Then we'll look at NBA free agency, the Kings situation when it comes to cap space and potential targets. They do have access to the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, so there is a route here where the Kings could perhaps improve their roster a bit. And then we'll look at the early outlook for next season. What do I expect from this Kings team? How do I see them getting better? And where do I see them ultimately finishing in the Western Conference next year at this point in time? If you guys do enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And let's get into that season recap here now. 46-36 record this past year. For Kings history, for Kings recent history, that is a very good season. 10 games above 500, but in this year's Western Conference, that was not good enough to get the job done. There was a bunch of really good competitive teams in the West, and 46-36, despite it being a good record, 10 games above 500, within striking distance of a 50-win season, especially if the Kings stayed healthy down the stretch of the season, then you never know, right? But they lost in the playing game for the 8 seed. Now, they did not have Malik Monk. They did not have Kevin Huerter in that stretch. Obviously, two important pieces for their offense and the way that they flow, especially around Domantas Sabonis. So the end of the season doesn't really have me as panicked about Sacramento as it does for other people. One thing I will say about Sacramento, though, I was a little bit lower on them coming into the season just because I don't think they have a ton of defensive versatility on their roster. I think that they're missing like one or two hybrid defensive players. As someone who's a rim protector type of player, I've highlighted for them in the past a ton as like a Jonathan Isaac type target, which is a very unique niche player in the league. There's not a lot of players like him, but someone who has positional versatility to protect the rim and guard out on the perimeter a bit is something that they could definitely use. And then also just a premier point of attack defender. You know, at times Davion Mitchell has shown to be that, but there are some offensive limitations in his game that kind of lower his minutes and what he really provides to the Sacramento team. So the Kings still need defensive upgrades, and that's why I was a little bit lower on this team, despite me really enjoying the way that they play offense, and kind of their style of play is just really, really good, and it really hinges on Domantas Sabonis. I've seen quote-unquote analysts saying that the Kings need to upgrade over Domantas Sabonis to ever be taken as a serious postseason team, but they don't really look at the context that without Domantas Sabonis, this team could not play the style of game that they do, which is a ton of zoom action, DHOs, they run in transition, Sabonis gets the rebound and pushes, and as a product of that, he led the league in triple-doubles this year, he led the league in double-doubles this season, broke some double-double records, including Kevin Love's. Domantas Sabonis had a freakishly good season. In my opinion, an all-NBA caliber player this past year. Averaged 20, 14, and 8, I believe. Just an incredible year from him all around. Obviously, I would love for him to shoot a little bit more. I would love for him to be a little bit more aggressive as an offensive scorer because I think he's got the skill to do that. I do think he still needs to develop his right hand a bit as a play finisher, but for the most part, he's a joy to watch. One of the best passers in the league, period, not even just from the big man position, just one of the best passers, period. He does a lot of stuff off of a live dribble. And I know some people are going to say, oh, he's a dribble handoff merchant. First of all, the reason he's so good in dribble handoffs is because he's comfortable handling the ball. He's a threat to split DHOs if you're not defending them correctly, which makes the DHO receiver even more dangerous. And he's just flat out a really great screener as well. So you put all of those ingredients together and you're looking at the best DHO big in the league. Him and Bam Adebayo are definitely 1-2 in that discussion. So Sabonis deserves a lot of credit, as does De'Aaron Fox, who just continues to show that he is a star level point guard in this league. The amount of talent we have in the league right now is crazy. De'Aaron Fox is such a good player, and I don't think anyone's really ranking him in the top 3 or 4 for point guards in the NBA. That's just how stacked the NBA is right now. There's so much talent. We're at a spot where we can really use an NBA expansion to, I think, spread out the talent a little bit more and really cause some divide across some of the teams that are built with depth. Just kind of open the league up a little bit more, because I think De'Aaron Fox is a great example of how a really great all-star level player doesn't move the needle enough for a team to even make the postseason. Right now, we saw it last year with the Mavericks missing the playoffs with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. The Kings this year with Sabonis and Fox. There's just so much talent in the league, but I do want to hype these two guys up. Sabonis and Fox had great seasons. Malik Monk, he's going to be a main topic of discussion a little bit later, but he had a great season, finished second in Sixth Man of the Year voting, just a hair behind Naz Reid, the closest voting results for Sixth Man of the Year since the voting changed, I believe, in 2001, maybe 2003 it was. But Malik Monk had a fantastic season, and I think one thing that's really underrated about Monk's game, everyone talks about him as a high-volume scoring guard, which he is, but he's also a high-volume playmaker, one of the highest drive and kick percentages in the league. He gets 2 feet in the paint and kicks it out a ton. He's an essential piece for the Kings offense and their ball movement and kind of their rim pressure, coupled with their ability to spray and kick out for threes. So Monk, we'll see what happens with him in free agency. We'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray, 2 really important players in Sacramento with the way that they play off of Domantas Sabonis. I referenced their zoom action DHOs. Huerter is one of the most lethal players out of that, because even though he didn't shoot the ball as great this season as he did a year ago, you still don't want to give up open shots to him coming off of dribble handoffs. Because of that, it kind of puts unique gravity on the floor of having to defend him. Now, one thing that I'll say about Kevin Huerter, I just don't think it's right for a coach to pull a shooter off the floor if he's not shooting well, especially early in the season. I understand that sometimes players like Kevin Huerter or Buddy Hield, as another example, out in Indiana this year before he got traded to Philly, people say, well, when they're not hitting their shots, they're not helping you. Well, the issue is they still are, because the gravity that they have, the way that teams try to defend them, the way that teams are afraid of giving them open space, it just creates a lot more spacing issues for the defense, trying to defend Sabonis, Fox, Monk, and all the rest. And because of that, I think Huerter is still an important value piece on their roster, even if he's not hitting his threes at as efficient of a clip as he did a year ago, because he's still a threat and teams respect him as a threat on the three-point line. Keegan Murray, I think, took a step forward this year, not as big as one of that other people were hoping to see, but I think Monte McNair was genius for not trading him, not doing anything crazy. Keegan Murray is going to be a staple of Sacramento Kings basketball over the next decade, and trading him would have been very premature and very short-sighted. So I think the Kings made a lot of good decisions. I don't have him on the graphic here, but I do need to hype up Keon Ellis. Filled in for the starting role, especially down the stretch of the season, and played very, very well. Defensively, he was awesome. I referenced Davion Mitchell earlier. I think Keon Ellis really kind of stole that role from him. So Keon Ellis looks to be in the Kings' long-term future. If I had to guess, he ended the season very well when he was playing point guard. Just handled the rock and comfortably got Sacramento into sets, and obviously having Sabonis next to him helps with that as well. But then when he's playing next to Fox, next to Monk, he does a good job spotting up into the corner. I think he finds his aggression while attacking against closeouts, and defensively, he's a dog. So the Kings, they found something there with Keon Ellis. I liked him coming out of college a bit. I don't know if I saw this level of player from him, though, but I'm very happy to see it. When you're evaluating prospects like I do, you always want to see the guys work out, and you want to see them in the best case scenarios. So a lot of kudos to Keon Ellis for making it work with the Sacramento Kings. Let's jump forward now into their NBA draft lottery odds, and you see the Kings down at number 13. They have the 13th best odds at the number 1 pick, which is just a 0.8% chance. They have 8 combinations in the lottery that will push them up to the number 1 pick. So, considering that, it's not very likely you see them in the top 4. In fact, they have just a 4% chance to move into the top 4. Now, crazier things have happened. It's definitely still possible. 4% isn't impossible. So the Kings, if they move up into the top 4, that's definitely something that would be really, really good for them. Getting a top pick, someone like Stephon Castle in this draft would really help them, as well as a few other players. Zachary Reese-Share with his size, Alex Sarr with his size would be unique if the Kings moved all the way up to pick 1 or pick 2. There's some options out here for Sacramento if they do move up into the top 4, but more than likely they will be picking at number 13. And as you can see on the list, they have nearly a 93% chance to be picking 13th overall. So Kings fans, if you're looking at mock drafts, if you're looking at some of the content I have regarding the draft, you have to look at the end of the lottery. There's a 3% chance you're picking at 14. There's a 93% chance you're picking at 13. More than likely you're going to be picking in the back end of the lottery, which is okay because there's still good players in this draft. There's not a ton of drop off. I think there's a collection of quality players this year, and some targets that I think make sense for Sacramento to consider include Dalton Knecht out of Tennessee, Jared McCain from Duke, Khalil Ware from Indiana, Rob Dillingham from Kentucky, and Stephon Castle from UConn. I already touched on Stephon Castle. He's a great example of a player that if they move up would be fantastic. Maybe they could look to trade up in the lottery as well. That's definitely a possibility this year because I think the teams above will be willing to probably move down for maybe a solid player or maybe some cash and a few second-round picks. We'll see what the trade landscape really looks like, but I do think it would be possible for Sacramento to aggressively move up if they so desire. But at the end of the lottery, there's still players that I think could really help them. Let's start with Dalton Knecht out of Tennessee. He is a high volume shooter, does a lot of his work moving off of screens, shooting off the catch, and shooting in transition. And if you look at the way Sacramento plays, they like to play very fast, they get up and down the floor very quickly, but then also in their half-court offense, they move with a ton of pace and they move off the ball a lot. So if you're looking for a player who perfectly embodies that as a shooting prospect, well, Dalton Knecht is your guy. He does all of that and more at Tennessee. He obviously kind of played in a bigger role there, looking to be a scorer. The way I kind of equate that is what Doug McDermott was doing for Creighton before he came into the NBA. He was getting fed post-ups, and he was really their go-to scorer for the Blue Jays way back when. Now, I'm not saying Knecht's going to be the same player as McDermott. In fact, I think he's a better athlete. I think he's someone who's probably a little bit more of a reliable shooter off the move as well. So he's a perfect fit into Sacramento's offense. Then Jared McCain comes around, and looking at the Malik Monk situation, which again we'll talk about later, but there's a possibility Malik Monk is not back in Sacramento, which opens up the need for a combo guard beside Malik Monk, and this is where Jared McCain I think makes all the sense in the world. He's an elite shooter, shoots it extremely well, high volume, high efficiency. He's a great shooter. But off of that, he's also pretty adept at running in pick and rolls. Doesn't do it a ton, but he's somebody that I do think when he has had that opportunity to have the ball in his hands, he's been rather effective. And I think if you're looking to replace Malik Monk with a draft prospect, Jared McCain's probably around the top of the list, assuming that Reed Sheppard would at that point of the draft be off the board. Then you're looking at Indiana's Khalil Ware, former Oregon prospect. There's questions about his motor, this and the other thing. One thing I'll tell you, super productive and super efficient as a post-up player, super efficient as a floor spacing big man, which is something he really took a big step forward this past year with the Hoosiers in. Just shot a lot more threes and made a lot more threes. He's got great size. He's a rim protector. Now, one thing I'll say about him is he's kind of got that jumpism to him where he's going to go for blocks and maybe sacrifice his positioning a little bit. Nothing wrong with that, especially for a young prospect. That's something you can coach out of him and really maximize once he's in the league and give him a couple of years to develop. But if you're looking for a stable backup center behind Domantas Sabonis, someone who can give you 15 to 20 minutes each and every night, I think Khalil Ware is a great example of that. He has had some struggles with his conditioning just purely from an endurance standpoint. But I think Sacramento is a great landing spot for him because of that, because you already have a stable all-NBA caliber center ahead of him with Sabonis. So you're really just looking for, again, that 15 to 20 minutes off the bench. Instead of the JaVale McGee's, the Alex Lenz of the world, you're getting Khalil Ware in there, who is going to be a lot better rim protector, better offensive player, and all around just a player who I think is going to be a great fit in Sacramento if they did draft him. I think it would be a home run pick for them. I know some people would be like, well, he's never going to play with Sabonis. True, but you're getting 48 minutes of quality center play if you do draft Khalil Ware. Rob Dillingham probably won't be on the board when the Sacramento Kings pick, but he would be probably the best option for them because of his ability to, again, handle the pick and roll. He's an elite pick and roll ball handler. If you look at his efficiencies and play types, that's one of his best categories, and he also shoots the ball extremely well. off the move, off the dribble, off the catch. He is just an overall very good three-point shooter. So I think for Sacramento, if you're looking at NBA draft prospects that could really enhance this team on the offensive end, guys like Jared McCain, Dalton Knecht, Rob Dillingham are perfect examples. And if you're looking for a defensive prospect, Stephon Castle, if you move up into the lottery, really works for them as a combo guard. And then also Khalil Ware as a big man really enhances your rim protection coming off the bench. So these are 5 prospects that I thought made the most sense for Sacramento. There's other ones that, like Reed Shepherd, could work. Obviously, Alex Sarr at the top would be fantastic for them, but I tried to keep it as realistic as possible with the likely draft range they're going to be in, outside of maybe Dillingham and Castle, which are maybe a little bit higher up in the draft this year. Then we move on to their trade flexibility, and that got a big shakeup this year because in the 2025 draft, the Kings now owe the Hawks a protected top 12 pick. For the 2024 draft, it was lottery protected, and because of that, the Kings are now going to keep that pick, which changes their trade flexibility. Due to this, they can no longer trade a first-round pick until 2028, which has some ramifications on if they wanted to make a big move this offseason, if they wanted to improve their roster long-term, next trade deadline. They are kind of hosed for trade flexibility, which is one of the reasons why I didn't love the trade for Kevin Huerter to begin with, because I was worried about their long-term flexibility and how they would look to improve their roster further around Sabonis and Fox. But now with this little wrinkle, the fact that they have their 2024 draft pick, they could technically maybe make a move on draft night without sacrificing too much long-term trade flexibility, which is where I think this actually could work out very well for them on draft night, just like they did last year when they traded the 24th overall pick with Richaun Holmes to Dallas to free up cap space so that they could sign and extend Domantas Sabonis long-term. They could look to do something similar in the 2024 draft with their draft pick at probably 13. They could call up the Washington Wizards and say, look, we'll give you Harrison Barnes, we'll give you a lottery pick here at number 13 overall for Kyle Kuzma, and then maybe you throw in Davion Mitchell's contract as well to make the money work here. The Wizards come out of that with Harrison Barnes, who is a veteran, not really the big part of the deal. They get Davion Mitchell, which is a young guard who can defend. I think would be actually valuable there in Washington, trying to establish a defensive identity a bit. And they get another lottery pick, so the Wizards would have 2 lottery picks. They already have another first-round pick in this draft as well, so the Wizards would have 3 first-round picks in this year's draft after making a trade like that. And the Kings, the way that they could tell themselves, look, we're not sure about the quality of this draft. Obviously, there's some players that could help us, but we think Kyle Kuzma, upgrading to him over Harrison Barnes is a more significant upgrade for them. So as a result of that, that draft night trade could make them quite a bit better without sacrificing any long-term flexibility, because they already don't have a ton of long-term flexibility, and now they have this little 1-year window to make a trade without sacrificing some more long-term flexibility. So it could be a good win for them on draft night, turning Harrison Barnes into Kyle Kuzma, using that 2024 first-round pick. I think it could be a pretty big win for the Kings organization. Then we look at their NBA free agency situation. They're projected roughly negative $38.5 million in cap space. So you might be saying, well, so much for free agency, right? Not exactly. It's an important free agency for them this offseason. Malik Monk is an unrestricted free agent, and there's an issue. They only have early bird rights on him. So given their cap space scenario, they actually can't offer him anything he wants. They can offer up to 4 years and I believe $78 million for Malik Monk, which is less than $20 million a year, and I believe below his market value. I think other teams around the league, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Orlando Magic, I think Brooklyn Nets could look to get involved if they find a way to open up some money. There are teams that would want Malik Monk for more than $20 million a year. So because of that, I think the Sacramento Kings are at a spot where they're likely going to lose Malik Monk to free agency, even though he's an essential player there, really has kind of harnessed his career. For him, I think the best long-term way to continue to make money is staying in Sacramento and continuing to be a great player in Mike Brown's system, playing next to De'Aaron Fox, his former college teammate. But he's going to get offered a bigger bag this offseason somewhere else. Charlotte could be another team to watch for in that regard. So Monk probably not going to be in Sacramento next season. Both Alex Len and JaVale McGee are unrestricted free agents as well. Not sure that's the biggest loss for them, but we are looking at some of their size going out the door likely this offseason. So again, that's where the Khalil Ware addition in the draft would make some sense. Then they do have some tradable contracts here. Trey Lyles, final year of his contract this next season, $8 million. Harrison Barnes, we've already referenced as a trade piece. 2 years, $37 million left on his deal. These are all tradable contracts. Sasha Vezenkov, 2 years, $13.5 million with a team option on that final year. Davion Mitchell's going into the final year of his rookie contract at a little bit over $6 million. And then Chris Duarte, final year of his rookie contract, a little bit less than $6 million. So the Kings, if you look at all of those contracts here, you could trade Trey Lyles, you could trade Harrison Barnes, you could trade Vezenkov, you could trade Davion Mitchell, you could trade Chris Duarte. You're not really hurting your rotation too much. Lyles obviously is an important piece for them off the bench. Harrison Barnes is in the starting lineup, of course, but I think they could upgrade over him. You could reasonably trade these 5 players, and if you get back Kyle Kuzma, some other piece, find a way to retain Malik Monk, the team doesn't get much worse, and maybe you can open up some flexibility by bringing either draft assets or other players who maybe fit this team a little bit better. For example, if they made a push for Jonathan Isaac this offseason, not sure the Orlando Magic are going to be willing to trade him, but if they found a way to send a pick out the door with Trey Lyles and Vezenkov or Trey Lyles and Davion Mitchell, maybe there's a way you can get some defensive pieces in the building. Obviously, Alex Caruso is another guy to watch. He's right in that $9 million range for his contract. So it's easy for the Kings to get to a money standpoint of matching a trade for a player like Caruso. It's just about the draft picks. Maybe they could amend the protection with Atlanta to open up some more flexibility. But this free agency situation is an important one because they're probably going to lose Malik Monk. They're going to lose some size. They have some tradable contracts. They have a lot of flexibility from that standpoint. It just comes down to how Monte McNair looks to improve this team and how he looks to build for the future still, which is why I think he's been a genius. He hasn't sacrificed the future in his pursuit of building a winner right now. So credit to him for that. And then in the offseason as well, in free agency, they have their non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which means they have about $12.8 million of open money to spend on somebody to help improve their roster. And really what we're looking for is either a replacement for Malik Monk or an upgrade for backup center size, and then you use pick 13 to find the guard replacement. So Gary Trent Jr. for me stands out. He's a player who I think is going to be right around that non-taxpayer mid-level exception number. Shoots extremely well on wide open catch and shoot shots. The rest of his game though is a little questionable. What does he give you off the bounce? Defensively, he's got a lot of the traits that you're looking for, but it just hasn't really ever clicked into being a good NBA defender. So he's kind of a wild card at this point coming into this offseason. Isaiah Hartenstein, a great example of a player who could be that versatile backup big for Sacramento. He's been fantastic with the New York Knicks all season long, filling in as a starter when Mitchell Robinson's out. He's been an elite backup when Robinson's been in. Hartenstein just does a lot of things really well, has a great left-handed push shot, screens and rolls extremely well. He's a very versatile defender. You can play him up at the level of the screen. He protects the rim. Just does a lot of things extremely well that you're looking for in good quality centers. He's probably worth more than the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, but the reality is teams probably aren't going to be opening up a $20 million contract a year for Hartenstein, so he's probably going to wiggle into that NT-MLE somewhere. Kelly Oubre Jr. for the Sixers. It could be a wing option for Sacramento. Again, there's really a lot of flexibility here for the Kings around, not really in the trade market with their draft pick situation, but depending on how they want to build their team, they could look to move Keegan Murray to a power forward spot and get an athletic small forward in, or they could keep Keegan Murray as your kind of small forward, look to upgrade defensively at the power forward spot. That's where someone like Kyle Anderson comes in, who had a very underrated defensive season this year for Minnesota. Really good at the point of attack defensively. I think he was up for that challenge a bit more this year. Had his body in really good shape to do so, but he also protects the rim at a decent level for his size. And he also fits in Sacramento as a playmaker, someone who can get to the paint, get 2 feet in the paint, and then off of that, spray the ball out to shooters like Monk does. Now, he's not nearly the scoring threat that Monk is, though. So the scoring gravity is not quite there with slow-mo, but he could be a good addition. DeAnthony Melton, a player who kind of a poor man's version of Alex Caruso. He's not going to shoot the ball as well as Caruso, and he's definitely not as good of a defender as Caruso, but he just does a lot of the dirty work for a team, and I could see him being a really good non-taxpayer mid-level exception pickup for Sacramento there, looking to fill kind of minutes in that backcourt. Derrick Jones Jr., another guy who he's probably not going to get the full non-taxpayer mid-level exception, but I highlighted getting an athletic small forward. I think he's somebody who fits the bill in that regard a bit as well. Kind of up for the task this year defensively in Dallas. He's played extremely well on the defensive end of the floor. The shooting's always going to be suspect, but he cuts extremely well. He obviously is a lob threat. I think he would have a really unique pairing with Domantas Sabonis, giving a ton of athleticism to that Kings lineup. So the Kings could look to split the non-taxpayer mid-level exception into 2 or 3 players, or they could look to just target one player, like a Gary Trent Jr., like an Isaiah Hartenstein. Either way, they're probably going to be improving their team, getting some of these guys or one of these guys if they do go that direction. Obviously, still replacing Malik Monk is going to be very, very challenging and tough. But the Kings, they're working with kind of a half-shuffled deck here. They don't have a ton of options. So this is what some of the best pathways for them are. So when it comes to an outlook for next season, barring some gigantic roster moves, say a trade for Paul George, signing of Klay Thompson, insert player X level player, right? Some crazy good player, assuming they don't add that into their lineup, Kings likely win a lot again. They won 46 games this past year. I think they'll be right in that range again. They'll be in the mix between a 5 seed and a 10 seed. If they win 2 more regular season games, you're looking at a 48 win team. If they win 2 less, they're a 44 win team. And that provides a lot of variance in terms of seeding, obviously, in the Western Conference. A 50-win team in the West is impressive, but it doesn't even guarantee you a top 4 seed in the conference, which is just crazy. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Kings for next year, somewhere between the 5 and 10 seed. That's not disrespect to Sacramento. I think they're a very good team. I like the way that they're built. I like Sabonis and Fox a ton at the top. I just think that they're still young. They're still looking for ways to improve this roster. And the big one for me is improving over Harrison Barnes will massively improve this team's offense, and it'll likely improve their defense as well. The Kyle Kuzma addition specifically helps their defense because he's a fantastic defensive rebounder. He's more athletic than Harrison Barnes, and he's a little bit lengthier as well. So that's going to be a big upgrade for them defensively, but then offensively, just a more respectable offensive player, a little bit deeper bag, someone who makes more of his wide open shots. And I think playing around Sabonis is going to be a natural fit for Kyle Kuzma to slate back into that kind of role. One of the big questions I have for next year is, can Sabonis replicate this past season? It's not because I don't think Sabonis is a good player. It's because he just had one of the all-time great seasons for a center. The amount of triple-doubles he posted, the amount of double-doubles consecutively he posted was just ridiculous. He was dialed in, tuned in. He's really, really tough. I know people have pointed to the injury luck there in Sacramento for the most part over the last 2 years. They obviously got bitten by injuries at the end of the season. But Sabonis is tough. He's not someone who's going to miss a ton of time because of injury, because he just has that mentality about him. So I think the answer to that question is probably yes, he can replicate it, although it's going to be tough to do because he has just such a fantastic year. And then Keegan Murray. I still think we're waiting for that big jump where he goes from a mid-teens point per game score to a 20 point per game score. And if he takes that jump forward and the Kings slightly improve over Harrison Barnes, or just on the fringes of their roster they get a bit better, then all of a sudden you're cooking with gas there in Sacramento. You're taking big steps forward, and you're going to be able to drastically improve your roster year in, year out with some of their enhanced flexibility as time passes. As they get rights back to their draft picks to trade, the Kings over the next couple of years should be looking much, much better. The Herter trade obviously has hamstrung them a little bit here in terms of flexibility, but I still do think Herter is a good player next to Sabonis. So I think the Kings going into next year, they're still going to be a threat. They're going to be a good team. The West is super crowded, so no disrespect to them at all. But it's going to be a good year. It's going to be a fun one. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you did enjoy. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more content. Make sure to let me know down in the comment section below what you expect for Sacramento to do this offseason, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.